There we go.
But you're a bass. You're a bass too. Yeah. Are you bass too? Sit next to me. Oh, whatever. You don't have to.
Trying to be accommodating. Maybe I have a 3. Look at me trying to.
No, I'm just saying yours too is all the bass twos on the couch. And the bass ones across.
Okay.
Your bass two, come over at the couch.
Bass threes.
Bass threes are next to bass two on this side. On that side. Right, isn't it? Because 2, 4, 1, 3. Yeah.
All right. Wait, what?
Are you 3? If you would know, that's what you don't mind. Yeah, 3s. It's going to be on this side. I mean, this is what process about it. All the basses sitting according to their position on the table. Unless you don't know, you don't have to. 5's kind of in the middle.
We're on the coffee table.
They are kind of right in the middle. Sorry, I lost it.
Perfect. Okay.
What are we kind of missing?
Just the basses.
Right here. You are bass 5. So where do I want to be? Right here?
Kind of in the middle or whatever. I mean, that's fine. Okay.
5s can go really anywhere, right?
Yeah, but they are in the middle of the bass mat.
We had a bass 5 party yesterday. It was like all spontaneous. We didn't even know. We were all out for drinks at the Dragon place. And then it turned into 5 bass 5s.
Wow.
Bass 5. Yeah.
Better than room 5.
Yeah.
Base 5 party.
Am I going to need this?
Missy was Adrian. Adrian's a bass 5. You are. Yeah, we're missing you too. Who? Jenny? Yeah, she was there.
I'm on the cusp. I'm definitely right on the cusp, right? Almost a 3.
Can I get back to a safari?
I
wanted to look up.
Really feel the essence of both because it's very like collaborate.
I just want to look up the names of these other.
But then again, my junior is 822, so Grace is lost. So that might be a part of it too.
Okay, great. We will start in like 3 minutes. Yes. Kim is how how's it going? Hey. Yeah. Are you here for the bass talk? Are you here for the bass talk? And were you is this here wait choose this how funny is that literally literally like the timing is like
I was just asking about are you I'm my toilet? And I just woke up to connect.
how cute is that? She just has a reflector at the thing I'm in. I love how that happened.
So that's what happened to me yesterday after smoking the cannabis, my right cannabis. I've been asking about the kids, my kids, like the 3-6 kind of turning from a 3 to a 6.
Yeah.
And after I did the cannabis experience, I go into the bathroom and Ross talking about it. And Ross
Oh, I love that.
And then I came out and I was like, my cannabis experience, I got full information. Oh, yeah. All right.
What's your base? Do you remember your base? You're a 4. I think you should go on that side.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I'm just in the middle. Yeah, so I don't have another chair to pull in. And I got some treats.
Even when you record, I don't have even just voice notes. I could just record with voice notes.
Oh, yeah.
On your phone. If that's okay with you.
Yeah, I have a lot of memos on it.
Yeah.
I love one picture. Like, I want to record my dad's story. I'll move here. I'll record
Sorry. Okay, never mind. I want to do that. Go away. We're ready to start. I had no idea. It wasn't on. And then it turned on. And then that's it. We're not doing that anymore. Okay, we're good. Okay. I got it ready. All right, let's go. global cycles for breakfast. Everybody having breakfast? All right, everybody. If anybody else wants to record or stream or anything at all, feel free. Oh, wonderful. Okay, great. High Desert Human Design Conference, day 3. We actually survived to day 3. How is everyone doing? Yeah? Are you exhausted yet? Are you better? You're better? Okay, you missed the bar hopping and you in favor of, okay, good. I'm doing great. I mean, the psychogeography walk was really fun. I had a great time. We went on it last night. And then, Andre Israelov, he's just has such a great, he's doing great. It's really cool to see him lead a crowd like that. And it's been really nice and really special. So, well, I know we're a little bit behind schedule, but it's okay. I'm going to be going base theory and then, base theory. I'm going to do global cycles now into partnership analysis. People can leave to get to Mike's talk by noon. I'm really recommending everyone to go to that. So don't worry about if you miss some of the partnership analysis stuff. That one honestly can be more like a workshop. The way I think I'm going to do it is I'm just going to do global cycles, which is already a lot of information. Honestly, I mean, it really is. And then I feel like once you've taken that in, most people will probably have absorbed enough from that. We might not even have to do partnership analysis, or if somebody's really interested in that and wants to hang out, we can workshop it. I can, if you're a projector, I'll look at your partner's chart. That's kind of how Rod did it. He wouldn't do partnership analysis for couples unless both were present, unless it was for a projector. So, anyway, but okay, so maybe we make some exceptions. But in any case, we're going to do the global cycles analysis. So global cycles is a lot of material. I'm not going to do all of it. I'm really just going to be doing locks and keys, and I'm going to be teaching you how to do your own lock and key analysis if this is something really interesting to you, because that's really the technique that we're going to do here. But it's a lot of information. I wrote up all the information that I need just so you can kind of see. I mean, it's actually 24 gates. If we end up getting through this whole thing, we'll be talking about 24 gates. I mean, you have to kind of know half of the I Ching just to even do the global cycles analysis. But it's not actually that hard. So we're going to start going through it. So what we have down the middle is the locks. And the locks stay the same forever, always the same, since the beginning of time until the end. The locks are these very special gates of the G center where, I wish I had a printout with the rave mandala on it. Well, you've all seen it before where if you, even if you just look at, you have a, body graph here, maybe I could use yours. Yeah. Oh, and there's one too, yeah. So you can see, it depends if they're color-coded. Yeah, it's a little bit tricky. Yeah, these are great too. But basically, it's just the gates of the G center. If you have a color-coded one that's all filled in, like you can see some of your G center gates are filled in. They'll be gold. There'll be these equidistant gold lines in the Rave Mandala. One of the first things that stands out, and you notice, is that these gates of the G center are all equidistant. And in fact, on the wheel, they're all equidistant. In fact, 4 of them, the 10, 15, 46, 25, which go, 10 being the winter solstice and so on, and they each have different, 25. They each have, 50. So, for instance, I'm born on, 46, that's on the fall equinox. In fact, actually, how scientists talk about it? They don't say spring, summer, because of the different hemispheres. You actually just say that the September equinox or the March equinox. So that's what you say, because September equinox is fall for the northern hemisphere and it's spring for the southern hemisphere. But in any case, these equinoctial points and the midpoints, which for people who know the pagan holidays, Samhain and all these, these are the midpoints between the equinoctial and the solstitial points. So you have the solstices and the equinoxes, then you have the exact midpoints between them. The 8 equidistant times of year. They never change. This is why the wheel is marked to the year. This is why Richard Mason and the true sidereal and stuff doesn't work, because he makes them decouple and freely move over 26,000 years, so you end up with these very special G-center gates at random arbitrary times over the course of 26,000 years at every possible time of year. So it completely loses the annual cycle, and there's no point in there. We know the annual cycle is real. Every human being since the first humans has had some relationship to the annual cycle, to the summers and the winters, to the seasons, to the, and so these events, these classic pagan holidays, the 8 pagan holidays and so on, they are represented. They're right there in the G center. Now, you'll see that these are also the locks. And they're the vessel of love, and they're the Sphinx. The vessel is the external locks, the Sphinx is the internal. When people do global cycles analysis, they normally just talk about the external. They normally don't even go to this lower section. You know, we might have time. I think we're going to do the whole thing. I think we're going to be able to. We're going to kind of breeze through it. This is breakfast. People are eating breakfast, having coffee. This is like, we're going to do a breezy global cycle analysis. This isn't, you know, the 2-3 hour workshop. So, but these are the locks, and you can see the locks of the vessel of love never change. And at a fundamental level, you can see that these are things that are important to humans. The 25, you know, the 25 is really about the spirit of humanity. Every age has a spirit to it. 1615 to 2026 had a spirit of the age, the Weltgeist that, you know, Hegel called it, the world spirit, the world soul, the collective unconscious. Perfect. You pulled up this graphic. Yeah, if you'd like to show anybody, it's a fantastic graphic, and I can show the screen, you know, the screen at home, and yeah, this is what I'm looking at. Oh, this is so good. This is. And it's even keynoted. Oh,
It's Marianne
beautiful. Oh.
Marianne,
yeah, she's incredible. Pass that around, pass that back. That's so good. So good. So you can see that, you know, that the spirit, gate 25, was very different for that age than it is. And I'll go into how it's different soon. I'm just going to kind of go through it. The spirit of the age is very different. The spirit of the age is changing, and the key that unlocks the spirit of the age is changing. What is going to allow you to access that enthusiasm, that passion, that spirit? When I hear spirit, I think of enthusiasm, like I was saying yesterday, things like that. What key unlocks that? What really gives that to you in a different age? It changes over time. It really changes. People aren't always able to unlock the enthusiasm. The old key stops working. The marriage contract breaks down in this case, as we'll see, because the keys of the 3740, the keys of the 3740 no longer work. It's like the keys are no longer good anymore. They're kind of like, it's not opening the, you know, 46 is the temple. Where is really our temple? I mean, it's obviously the body and many other things too, but as a temple, it's like, where does humanity put its temple? You know, in the old days, this might have been a literal temple. We'll see when we deconstruct, and we can kind of imagine where the future's temple might be. You know, where is it really the place where it goes to worship? So people say the dance club is my church, or God, there's a DJ, all that stuff, you know, that temple theme. Okay, the 10, the behavioral code. How are you expected to behave? In your relationships, how do you behave? At work, how do you behave? Here in this class, how do you behave? Behavioral code. And then 15 is going to be, let's see, what was the keynote of 15? I always think these are the 4 loves.
So, humanity.
Yeah, I love the humanity, but I mean the keynote for the locks.
Oh, for the lock.
Yeah, because they all have they all have funny keynotes.
Yeah, it's on
versus, I should have written them down. Yeah, sorry, it's on the.
Can we share the link?
It's what is it? It's okay. It's not so important. I mean, so you can see that basically, what 15. I mean, you can tell just how it's changing. What it's been is all of the skills. 16 has been the key. So the key for the love of humanity. I mean, we know 15 in a lot of ways. I was just trying to use some of Roz. He uses, is it the witness or something? He uses some like really esoteric keynotes here. I was just trying to kind of spice it with some keynotes. It's not really, there's already enough flavor here. We don't really need to spice it anymore. But, you know,
I think the love of being able to go through both of what's happening, being able to keep your body in your commitment.
Sure,
no
it's
matter which way.
Yeah, and
it sounds right.
Yeah, I think it is, and witnessing the extremes of humanity too, right. Because it's all about. But I mean, you know, yeah. So and it's loving humanity in all its extremes, and one of the ways we'll do the key analysis in a moment. But you can see the 16 is changing to the 20 there, and these are very different things. And again, this requires knowledge of 24 different gates. So this is a pretty advanced analysis, but we'll kind of try to make it a little bit easier as we go. And I think just realizing these are the 4 gates of the vessel of love. They're right there in the G center. You know, they kind of just have that. And then for the internal themes, we have the 13, the 7, the 1, and the 2. Those are the other 4 G center gates, the Sphinx. And so the 13 is kind of how we remember and the stories, like how we can understand our history, how we understand our shared human history in life, right? The 7 is something about our, logical direction. We can kind of understand at the general keynote level. And then the 1 and the 2 are just these very profound kind of fundamentals. You know, the one is going to always have, I believe it's the one that will always have, there's only one spleen gate of every time. There's only one spleen key, and the one will always contain that key, and that's the core fear, the kind of motivating fear. And so every single era only has one spleen gate because of the mathematics of how it turns, because all the spleen gates are all together. They're all in a row, just after gate 46. And the, you know what I mean, on the wheel. Just one after the next. They actually make a little star on the spleen. If you trace where they go on the spleen, they do little. It's really cute as you go along the wheel. In any case, so because of that, every era has its fear. What is the fear of that time? And we're going to see what that fear is. So I'm just walking through the locks. And then 2, this is kind of the receptivity of that era. What that era is ready for. What that era is ready to receive. Is it ready to receive the, you know, maturational process? Could I see your chart one time just for that? Yeah, and you know, and so when I think of, you know, gate 2, this is just so cute. So gate 2 is, what is the era ready to receive? Our era, the key has been 42, endings. We've been ready to receive the closing of the door. So anyway, yeah, it's a fun one. Okay, so any questions so far? And then we're going to get into the actual work of it. We're going to go through the keys. And I'm going to do some audience participation. People can say if they happen to think of any keynotes that they'd like to jump in with. Questions so far? Anything?
Oh yeah, thank you.
This is an entire PowerPoint talking about the process of planning was
It's incredible.
37 and we're going into 55.
So good. So good. Okay.
Marianne does a great class too.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. It's really good. Okay, so we're just going to start. Let's just start with, you know, 27. Let's do the 25, 46 together, because we see already that the keys that we're coming out of, the keys for the era of the cross of planning keys have definition in them. Oh, perfect, perfect. Okay, so the witness is actually the 13. Okay, so it's the history, the witness to history. But I misspoke, and I see the 15 is the pattern. Oh yeah, okay, the pattern of life. Perfect. This is exactly what I need.
There you go.
Okay. So when we're starting,
Get him one time.
okay, so this is the way then. I guess this is what they call the way of how people have been, you know. This is Ra's mystical keynoting for us. So what has been the way? It's been gate 37, but particularly if there's ever a definition, you can't really look at it in isolation. Same with any incarnation cross. You know, some channels are overrepresented because there'll be an incarnation crosses. Cross of laws 11360, cross of service 11858, cross of informing at 1222, and so on. So certain channels become overrepresented in the general population percentage-wise because they're already contained in those crosses, and the cross in some sense becomes all about that. Well, it's the same thing. Our era has been all about that 3740, all about the being part of something bigger than you. I have a friend who's a 3740, doesn't have family here per se, and he's always looking for that. He wants to become part of a film crew, and I was like, this is totally 3740, being part of the crew. You're part of the family. You're all working on this kind of arduous time together, and you're all, I mean, that's very 3740. Let's come together. Let's do it. And you can see that. So 37 has been the way. But also, you know, what I think of is how we've accessed the spirit. Really, the spirit of humanity is through that affection and playing with kids and playing with parents and playing, you know, and having all of this sweetness. That's moving to 55. This is one that I actually find really beautiful. And it's beautiful because 25 and 55 are the only two gates of the spirit. It's kind of beautiful that in some sense the spirit is moving into this personal spirit that can only be accessed individually. The ability to access it through the tribe is going away. It's only really accessed you alone in the universe, in your own existential mortality. Exactly. It's complete, you know, you and your divinity between you and the you know, cosmos. That's how the key is changing. The old key of affection. Someone has the kids and the family, and they go, but this isn't accessing the spirit any longer. It's no longer working to get to the spirit. So now we go to gate 46. This is the temple. So 40 is a funny one. If you know what 3740 is all about, it's like the bargain. And the bargain is the 40 says, you know, okay, I'll work for you. In fact, it's a love gate. You know. By the way, as a side note, anyone who doesn't have gate 40 and a defined ego, don't beat yourself up if you don't love your job. You know, so many generators are like, I don't love my job. And it's like, well, you don't have. Do you have gate 40 and a defined ego? Because those are the ones who love to work. I mean, Ra loved to work. You know.
The second line.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, you love the work. You love the work. It's really like, look how much I do for you. I love it.
And the 37s all rewarded him.
Yeah,
Their
exactly,
affection.
with the affection. And you know, the bargain can go both ways. It can be, I'll do this for in exchange with the affection. It can also be, leave me alone with the affection and give me my aloneness.
Yeah.
If I do this, I give you
So
all
I
this
can
stuff
rest.
so I can rest. If I do all this work for you,
Yeah,
let me
yeah.
rest.
Being 37 on the first one.
Sure. And so with the 40, there's something really funny here, which is that we take for granted, some of us anyway, that since before 1615, we didn't really have a lot of aloneness. Aloneness, being able to sleep in your own aura, being able to be in your own, like, people used to just like live in houses like this. Everyone, unless you were the ultra elite of the tiniest percent of the tiniest percent, we all just lived packed in aura with each other. Aloneness is an invention of the last 400 years, of the last cycle. It's actually the temple of aloneness. Think of, this is the no choice, is that people think that everything is designed in some arbitrary contingent way, but like, even like the big kind of, I don't know, like big like American home and going to sit and watch the TV and your aloneness, and like that is part of the global cycle, the ultimate outcome for better and worse. There's not self versions of it, and there's great versions of it, of course. But you can just see that 40, that gate of aloneness, that has become the temple of aloneness. It was something that we never actually had before 1615. People couldn't go to church in aloneness. They went to church in church. We go to church in aloneness. We say, I'm going back to my study, I'm going back to my bedroom. I mean, the idea of having a bedroom. People used to just live in, you know, all sorts of places. So, okay, and then we see that this is changing to gate 59.
Yes!
And it's actually changing to the 59.6. What happened?
Something just fell in my drink. I don't even know where it came from.
No.
Can I borrow this?
Yeah, just do a little research here. Do a little first line investigation.
I don't know.
Oh my
I mean,
God.
that's so weird. I mean, I guess it's okay.
Oh my God.
I guess I must need it.
Well, and then we're changing to the
And it was on
59.
the,
It's been on the 41.
alongside 40, and now the
And not just the 40, the 41. Here's what's really interesting, the 40 line 1. So what's so interesting too is like the lines even are the locks. So for instance, I have gate 9, line 1 triple activated, which is a key for this time, so I'm very useful. I joke that I will retire from human design 2027. My key will no longer work on any of the locks. You
So
know?
are we in line 1 right now of all the locks?
What's that?
From this era, we're
These are all line 1, yes. And Ra, who carries the line 1, it kind of, oh, and also anyone, so there's something else funny. If you carry, you know, basically 66% of people right now are going to carry a line that's either the line or the harmony to a key. I mean, it's like we're in a first line era. So first lines and fourth lines, 66% of people will carry one or the other. But if you don't have a first line or a fourth line, you know, if you're going to feel a little bit weird in this era. And then someone like me, who's a 5-1, is going to feel totally left out of the new era because it's going to be a 6-line era. So the 3s are going to be fine, the 6s are going to be fine, you know. Yeah, so, well, I mean, I have 3rd-line nodes. I guess my nodes will align me to the people, but I'm not necessarily going to be relevant to them or appreciated by them or anything, you know. So I'm going to necessarily care what I have to say. So,
Get it all out now.
yeah, exactly. So, but you can see how, so 46, the temple is turning into the one-night stand. What was that? The temple is turning into the 59.6 after the precession.
Wow. That one's a really interesting one that I think that people attach a lot of mental stuff to, but yeah, it's really fascinating.
So it's the
And the gate of
6th
the
line
section.
of the
Because
59.
it's in the 6th line too. I mean the 59 is kind of undergoing part of that mutation
Oh, yeah.
in relation to the 55.
Absolutely.
You know,
No, I mean,
the whole
these.
sex drive thing isn't going to be as much of that fuel behind.
No, it's true. People are going to be so busy because the new definition is, 3420. So we see in very futuristic places like Tokyo, there's already really low birth rate and low sex and so on. So, okay, now we move on to behavior. And so gate 10, this is the conditioning field. Now, I just want to say what these things are. Like, these are conditioning fields that are so ubiquitous that it's like, what is everybody doing right now? You're focusing.
No, I'm trying not to.
Try not to. I know, but it's so hard
Trying.
not to because there's such a conditioning field to focus. Because guess what? The key for behavior. You're in a relationship, focus. You're in work, focus. You go to school, focus. You sit. It didn't used to be like that before 16, 15. People learning and education and all of these things were very organic. We're very free flowing. We take it for granted that focus is just what you do. It's not what the future people do. It's not what anybody does after, a few years from now. All of this, I mean, think of all the, go on a date, you're expected to focus. You're expected to pay attention to, I have focus, triple activated, and it's part of my 952 definition. I don't want to necessarily even have to focus all the time. I love to not have to focus, but yet there's this continual pressure. Focus, 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 focus. My boss calls me, he's like, Jonah, are you listening? I'm like, yes, I'm focusing. I got it. No, it's just, that's what the behavioral code is. Every era has a behavioral code. Now, I have 34.3, and I don't, okay, well, so your behavioral code, so your, how did that happen?
I knew there was something in my drink.
You found it?
Sorry.
Can I get a little, just get a little, just have to get a little,
I'm sorry to interrupt.
yeah.
I've been recording right here, so we might see it.
Oh my God, that would be great. Fantastic. Oh, so fun.
Like, I told you, am I the only one that saw that?
Oh, well, this is so interesting because I at least feel like the 34-6, maybe does it act, so do all 6 lines act like their third line? I guess they kind of do.
Okay, so
it's like you actually were kind of a bully growing up and then you become
Well,
more...
34 in line 6 is the role model, but the first 30 years are very trial and error about what is...
No, 10 line 6.
But that's what I meant.
10 line 6. But
Oh,
do you
I have 34 6 as well.
Oh,
So
you have
common sense.
both?
I have both. I'm 6 line for, yeah.
Whoa, common sense.
I have
Awesome,
34/6.
awesome.
Yeah, I'm supposedly a common sense role
So
model.
anyone on 34.6, you're going to have the key
First 30
in
years.
2027. People need to know how to do that, how to have that common sense in this kind of transition. Okay, we had the phase 4 talk on the river earlier. We had I always seem to like ruffle the phase 4's feathers. I wonder why.
So what's 34/6 then is like more knowing when to use your displays of power.
Well, here's the thing is, it goes through a pre-session. I have 34.3, and I've seen it come out, and it does come out in response. It does come out authentically sometimes, but it also came out many times not self. The world's mostly not self. I mean, I don't want to be here, and this next cycle, 2027 to 2438, good thing, that all the life extension stuff is failing because I don't want to be here when 34.3 is the key. Because I have 34.3, and I've taken an acoustic guitar and smashed out a windshield on a car with my 34.3. You know what I mean? It's not pretty. It's not a pretty thing.
I broke a toy in front of my kids, when they were fighting over it.
Oh my God! From 34.3?
Yes.
Oh my God! 34.3 is display of
I
power.
shredded my own pair of pants because my sister kept borrowing them without
See, 34.6 does look like 34.3. Yeah. Your common sense develops.
Neither of us can wear them.
Your common sense develops 7 years after you go to Saturn. You're not a. Yeah, that's no. I think all the 6 lines they all take a while. They act just like the third line stuff.
Yeah.
So we're stuck that way our whole lives. I'm always stuck that way. But anyway,
What about 34.5?
what does it mean when
I got one too.
the behavioral code? Hey, we're not. It's not the future yet, guys. It's still focus. Okay, we're not yet in 2027. But you can feel it breaking down, can't you? Even the focus. Okay, so 9 is like the behavioral code. The future behavioral code is display your power. Pretty scary world to live in. This is what I mean by new dark age. Ra didn't make this stuff up. He interpreted it from what, when you realize that there's going to be a time when 34.3 plays the same role that focus plays right now. Scary.
So what is
Scary
that,
to think
about
about.
100 years
Couple
from
hundred
now?
years from now. Yeah, that's right. About halfway through. 2027 to 2438. We're talking like 2250. In 2250,
It's
people will be ripping each other's
no, it's
sheds.
machismo.
It's gonna be like that Rick and Morty Mad Max one where there was Thunderdome.
Yeah, displays
I
of
use
power.
my cheese mode to define myself. I think it's a nice little.
Yeah,
It can be nice.
Well,
It can.
the
I've seen
not
it.
self is really ugly.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I broke a toy that my kids were both fighting over.
So yeah, and so then we'll just go on to 15. So and again, 15. The pattern has been all about skills. Rod likes to say, what'll happen when nobody can fix your VCR? What'll happen when the internet breaks? Nobody knows how to fix the old I mean, I'm already a programmer who was on the cusp of learning all the really obscure stuff like Pascal and learning that there's all these systems that are still operating that nobody really knows. And the fact of the matter is that newer people aren't going to be equipped to focus and have these skills and the details. Guess what? Details also going away. Detail 62 right there. Yeah, also going away. So I mean, all of the focus and the details, the two detail gates are going away, you know, and so our pattern is going from that to gate 20, to this very existential in the now. Yeah, and of course, as part of that 3420, busy, busy, busy. This is people who are so busy. Now, what's funny for the keynoting, I love that little integration button. People might know it. You know, 34 is doing, 20 is now.
Power in
right?
the now. To
10
commit to your spirit.
Well, that's a beautiful way to do it. The power down into your spirit is a great. Yeah, that's great for our sleeping phoenixes. Let's wake them up so they can burn down a world, and then if they're base 4, design a new one where everyone has the power to commit to the spirit.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Although this is not. Oh, sorry, it's not commitment. This is more be like the sexual hustler to you know, stir up some to disperse the friction. Of the, I think she's on 29. It's actually 59. Not commitment. Yeah, it's very different than commitment. Ask a 59 about. Anyway, I was 29. I don't want to do that. Okay, but in any case, you know, I love doing the keynoting for this 3420, where you know it's doing it now, and then you have the 10 is like for yourself, and 57 is knowing. So you have people that have all of them, and they know what they're doing, and it's relevant to themselves. But you have 3420s; they literally do not know what they're doing, and it has nothing to do with them.
Yeah, no 57.
Just a pure 3420 doesn't know what it's doing. Like literally, like in the actual keynote sense of having no awareness, it's going, and has like completely automatically. This is the sleepwalking. That's why they look so young. They get a lot of beauty rest. Okay, so no, I'm sorry. I'm being so snarky.
So it's called the sleeping phoenix. They just I don't know.
Because they're sleepwalking through 3420. No, I love my sleep. We have some here that are awake and that have burned down a lot, and they're like standing there in the ashes. It's like that Dorsha Hayes poem where it's like, if you haven't looked at your stuff, you know, you might have all this clutter and a spark and set it on fire. Do I seem like I'm like being hoity-toity? Like I'm standing, like I forget how it goes, but like I'm standing here on smoking ashes and blackened ground, and I've really like burned down everything. And that's the sleeping phoenix. That's what happens to them. That's Lyra. She's burned everything down. She's standing on smoking ground. I mean, it's incredible. It's beautiful to see. That's what Ra says. Is he's like, when you're going to do it, be careful with your sleeping phoenixes. If you manage to wake him up, first of all, to wake him up, you need to strap him down, give him some whiskey, slap him a couple times, pour some water on their head. You have to do a shamanic intervention. But if you even do manage to wake him up, these are the people that start out a millionaire, and after 7 years, they're penniless on the street. So you don't necessarily want to wake him up because they refuse. I mean, I know another one in Seattle who now is like, now that he's like, he's not going to be a super slave to everyone anymore. Because 3420 is the ultimate slave of, you know, doing whatever others say. Again, if there's no 10 there to make it about themselves, and if there's no 57 there, they don't even know they're doing it. You have to point it out to them, and they go, wait, everyone doesn't do this? Everyone doesn't go 12 hours a day for other people doing every random task that comes along? I thought that was just what people did. Okay, so anyway, moving on to the internalization theme. So a lot of people do global cycles, they stop at the externalization because that's all about the outer world. That's what's going to transform the world. You know, by the end of this, you know, the outer world will be radically transformed in this way. Because again, even the behavioral code is how it expresses the outer world, how you see the behavior out in the world, how you see the pattern out in the world, how you see you know, all of these are externalization. We also have 4 internalization. You don't really usually hear, you hear about the planning moving to the phoenix, you don't hear about Maya moving to penetration. Those are also happening because there are 8 keys. And these are the internalization. These have to do with our internal experience of ourselves as humans. You know, the external and the internal. And so when we get to 13 is what is the witness, which makes more sense for a keynote because it's witnessing history. It's how we understand history, how we understand the turning of the ages, the wheel of time, how we understand our own past. Well, the key for understanding our own past has been in 61.1. Ra had that key. Ra has literally given us the occult knowledge with which we can understand our own past. Pretty beautiful, right? And that's moving into 54, right? That key, we have a key now. This is the ending of the mystical way. We have the key now, the door's open now, that's closing from the 61, which is giving us the glimpse into our own past, our witnessing of our own history of 13, of being the, you know, there to kind of be the witness to human history through the lens of the 61.1, of that occult knowledge.
Gathering the secrets.
And that's moving into the 54.6. that's moving away. It's moving into it. Well, it's going to be a new understanding of it's moving into, I mean, talking about mystical. 54-4 is very mystical. It'll be very interesting in a couple hundred years when the 54-4 is the key, which is literally all about the most sublime, beautiful moment. I mean, Ra did say if there was one other time that he wished he was alive, it was when the 54-4 becomes the key. Because 54, I have 54, and and it's in a defined root, and it's literally, well, yeah, it's the enlightenment and enlightenment. 54-4 is. Mike has that. I know a few people who do, but 54 is so mundane. It's the mundanest of the mundane. It's sending Christmas cards. It's saying hi to your resets, remembering everybody's names. It's trying to personally message every single person. It's having personal contact with everyone. And there will be a time in the future where the personal contact will be, one of the only ways we really remember our history. Because we're not necessarily going to have the internet. Yeah, we're not going to necessarily have the internet and the history books. The personal contact is going to be the lens through which we understand our collective history. It's interesting to think about that. This is the new Dark Ages, right? But it's also beautiful. It's tribal, and it's
storytelling.
The marrying maiden. So 7, we're moving pretty quickly. You're almost done. Yeah. So this is our leadership. Mike has this. I always love it. Anyone with a lock is kind of an agent. So 1/3 of people is going to have a given gate. And what's interesting, and so the lock gates tend to be the ones who are being plugged into and activated by the key gates to kind of then go out there and be the mouthpiece for it, if you will. And the key gate is the one who kind of comes along. For instance, it's the 13 that are going along and really hearing all the 61-1 stuff that Ra has to say or whatever. But obviously, if you have a key or a lock, you have a role to play in the kind of bigger picture. Which is neither good nor bad. I mean, it can be kind of annoying. Ra was like, oh my God, so much demand. If you have a lot of keys, you're in demand. And you're being pulled to service in some sense. So, but this is another details going away theme. This is that our leadership is going from the logical details, moving to 53. I mean, new beginnings and things. It's going to be very different. It's going to be a very different thing. What does it mean when logical leadership key is in an abstract format channel, right? I mean, what is that? It's like, I have a hard time even decoding that. I mean, again, these are just our interpretations, but it seems like we're going to be challenged collectively to start something completely new, to actually start over in a big way. And when you look at the keynotes of all of these new beginnings, right? I mean, new beginnings are the leadership.
54 will help fuel it with the ambition.
Yeah, the ambition and the kind of enterprise and working together tribally. And so because it's this cross of penetration as part of this is the new key set. The cross of penetration is really interesting. And then we have the fear. The fear is always going to be from the spleen. It's interesting, there's always one spleen gate in every era. It's so cool, and only one. It's so cool how that works. And I also love that the other interesting thing, and the reason people say it's kind of a new dark age, is that even though we have tribal coming up, in the externalization theme, the Cross of the Sleeping Phoenix doesn't have collective. And I didn't realize this, but somebody told me this, and I haven't found counter evidence yet. So I'm still looking for counter evidence. They said the Cross of the Sleeping Phoenix is the only incarnation cross without a single collective gate. That every other incarnation cross has at least one collective.
I think Ross said that.
So is that true? Is there any counter evidence to that?
I haven't investigated.
I mean, it's pretty crazy. It's just like such a funny pattern that out of every incarnation cross, only one of them is missing a collective outlet, and it's like that's why people say the internet's going away. Because it's not just, I mean, it literally is the only, is it? Yeah,
yeah, I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. So is it in a way to put it into terms that I can articulate it, like the super conscious that's being built out for the collective is basically like dissolving because there's no collective gate during that cycle.
I mean, yeah, it's that all of the collective 16, like all the 16s out there who we're kind of making everybody really useful. The background frequency was kind of getting all those 16s doing all this detailed skill work.
Right,
all the 9s like me who were focusing and sharing and all that stuff. And everybody's telling you from birth, focus, focus, focus. And make sure you develop your skills and all of these things. Nobody will be doing that in the future. They're gonna be be strong, 34.
So the picture too, I heard, I'm catching bits and pieces, so I'm trying to
Sure.
It's hard to hear.
I have this thing, but it's squeaked at me. Why don't I turn it up a little bit? We're almost done anyway.
Yeah.
Well, you guys should have said
But
okay.
so you were mentioning how direct contact is basically the only thing that's going to matter. So that kind of goes along with what you were saying with the collective bond waves, right? So it's
Yeah, I mean
only those you
that's
have
kind of
direct
one
contact
interpretation
with.
of it.
Totally tribal.
That's one interpretation of it. But is this even
Stuff isn't gonna
is this
matter.
useful or is
If
this
my
totally
tribe
dumb?
is doing this to you,
Oh my God, it's gonna start
who
speaking
cares
again.
about what's happening?
Absolutely, I don't think so.
Because that doesn't matter. The collective global,
Which makes sense because this huge, like, massive system that's Canada is not sustainable.
And it answers, it speaks to all of our pushes and urges to build these selective fractal communities that will be divinely selfish tribal.
yes.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see even just how the fear has changed because every era is going to have a fear, and what the fear has changed from is a very tribal fear. It's actually changed from 32, which is the fear of failure. I mean, what we've had for the last 400 years is the fear that you'll disappoint your parents, that you won't make it into college, or the fear that your kids won't make it into college, the fear of the material transformation of ambition is the fear, and that's changing to an existential fear of 57, the fear of tomorrow, the fear of the unknown, the fear that is like the fear that something that we couldn't even imagine will happen tomorrow that will just change everything on the spur of the moment. We don't care about going to college anymore. We care about like what's going to happen tomorrow. What's going to happen tomorrow? Is there going to be a forest fire? Am I going to have to move? This is the new fear. So you can see how different that fear is. The integration survival fear instead of the tribal fear. The key is the lock is gate 1, and the keynote for gate 1 is the example, which is kind of funny. The example, but I guess the fear makes an example out of people. I don't know. But like you want to be the example of the success or the failure for the 32. The 57 is going to be the example. I mean, I guess there's a positive. You've been bringing the most beautiful, lovely harmony to it, and you can bring such beauty to that 57. Yeah.
So, can I see the numbers?
Oh, okay. And you can use this too. Yeah. Just don't point it at it or it'll squeak. It'll squeak. Yeah.
Is this good?
It'll just squeak. Yep, perfect.
Okay. So we have been afraid of failure, of not meeting our goals, not being ambitious, not being better than our parents were.
Yeah.
That was the fear that we had. The way I look at the keys and the locks is this lock is almost actually the key.
Yeah, right. And it's funny when they say the keys changed, it's almost like the lock's changed because you can't.
Right, because you can't get in there anymore. So
Yeah.
the way to move past that fear of failure is to be the creative role model of self. How do we do that? By following our intuitive movements.
Beautiful.
Not being afraid.
Beautiful.
By intuitively
Yeah.
being the role model of self. And that
Yeah.
will
Oh, it's so
squash that
beautiful,
fear.
and that's why it's called the example. Is because the example is really on both sides of the binary. That example is going to be. There's going to be examples of 57s who are very awake. This is why Ra. I mean, he wasn't just saying human design is going to be useful for people in the future. He wasn't saying it's going to be necessary because to really flourish at least because. These keys are changing in a very major way. Okay, well, I'm going to finish for that. Thank you all for coming. Oh, did we not do?
We didn't do the last one.
Oh, I thought we did. Okay, sorry. Well, in that case, the plan. So what is the plan for the future? This is a nice one to end on. So, no, we did. Didn't?
Well, we just did the creative role model. And the
But we didn't talk about. Didn't we talk about
we
42?
touched on it a little. You said this
Oh.
is endings.
Okay, yeah. So I kind of covered that one preemptively. So 42. So that's what we're receptive to. We're receptive to our endings, and what we're going to be receptive to in the future is shock. Okay, there we go. Or awakening, or rousing of the spirit. Rousing of the spirit. I always think of. I think of Tyrion Lannister. We're in George R. R. Martin's town, and I think of Tyrion Lannister in Game of Thrones. He does the rousing speech, the Battle of Blackwater, and gets everybody to come and says, that's gate 51 right there. But it's also, I'm a 25. Both my parents have 51. I've been around a lot of 51s in my life.
51.6 and
Yeah. Question?
No, I was just.
Oh, you're a 51.
And I've been feeling that same pressure, and it's been interesting to witness. Like me and Bradley have talked a little bit. We're gonna, but the call that's being had of kind of filling in because of what's happening, and I can feel people in the last few years coming to me to shop them. Like there's a level, and I
Well,
understand.
yeah,
For
and
me,
it-
like right now with
yeah.
it still feels pre-digested, immature, like it's not really. And so that's why I'm like, oh, yeah, it's gonna be relevant.
But it's especially going to be people with the 51.6 who are going to be really necessary for this. And there's something else funny I wanted to mention. This is a cute little side note, and then I'll turn this off and we can stop it. But you can start to see the keys of past history. This is a little fun homework if you want to do this yourself. And you can see that depending what line they are, people can be weirdly kind of like they can actually be kind of like anachronistic as a person. I know it's terrible. This thing is not the best idea. In any case, well, but people can't hear. It works. I have undefined throat, so in any case, so when I was having the debates with Richard Mason on True Sidereal, I didn't look at his chart or anything. I wasn't really interested in the beginning. Someone sent it to me finally, and I saw it, and I noticed something funny, which is when I was looking at all of his work he was doing, before he was even into True Sidereal, he was already kind of on the scene, and he was doing all this really bizarre work that I associate with like Aleister Crowley era of like even 1850s, even a little bit before that, where it's tons of like what plant associates to, like everything has associations all the way down, and it's like what tarot card is what letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and like this was the level he was trying to do with it, and it was so obscure, and I found out he has the 61.3, I believe it was the key from like 1820 to 1880, and I'm like, of course he had the old key. Like if he had this information in the 1800s, they'd be like, you're a genius. But we have Ra who had a 61.1, so sorry, you're a couple hundred years too late, buddy. Anyway, thanks for coming, everybody. We're gonna do partnership analysis in 5 minutes. Just have a little break, use your restrooms. Thanks a lot.